Friends, I'm Kerry Farr. Welcome to In Your Corner. That pretty picture on the screen there is a photo of Katrina Bolen. Katrina, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I understand you're having some technical difficulties, which we all understand. Welcome to In Your Corner.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I do not know why my camera is not wanting to cooperate tonight.
You need one of them brothers there to help you.
Yes, I do, because I am not very technical.
So Katrina, for those that know you, they know that you are the sister of Kenny and Kyle Saylors. And so, how was that growing up with those two young men?
Well, I was a little bit older, so they just kind of, did their thing, and I did my thing, basically. But I know that Kyle bought a video camera when he was little, and him and Kenny used to make movies on his video camera with their like G.I. Joe men and things like that. So he started way back when he was young.
Well, you three grew up in a very conservative Christian home, and your mother would only allow certain movies to be played in the house. Tell us about that and your upbringing.
Well, yes, it was very strict. We could not listen to Stryper. That was, terrible. Uh, and like movies, things like that. Yeah, everything was very, I mean, I guess she just wanted to make sure that we did not get I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but we just weren't able to watch things that most people were able to watch, and so she was very strict about it, and so we kind of I guess Star Wars was the first movie I remember seeing, um, I think it was Star Wars or Star Trek. No, I think it was Star Wars, and it was a long time ago. And yeah, so it is kind of funny how we were raised so strict, and then now all three of us are working in movie business when we couldn't even watch movies as children. So,
Yeah,
um,
I've heard some amazing stories. I guess I won't tell Kenny's story about your mom going and getting him out of the theater. We'll let him tell that whatever he's on.
right.
But Liz Barnett says, love from Michigan. And Jonna Sussman says, blessing y'all from Kentucky. Thank you. And my wife, Latrell, says, howdy, Katrina and friends. And Linda Lou Vire says, hello, Carrie and Latrell. Linda, say hello to Katrina. Katrina, give us a little, background on you and how you ended up in the movie business.
Well, I was actually a manager at a jewelry store back in the day when Kyle and Kenny were doing their first movie, and they called me one I guess it was probably like a Friday night or something, and said, "Hey, we're gonna shoot someone if you wanna come and watch." And I was like, "Oh, absolutely." So I drove over there, and that was my very first experience with a movie set or anything like that, and they shot the guy in the head, and he fell back over the white Suburban or whatever, and blood went everywhere. And then they cut, and then it cleaned up and did it again. And I was like, wow, that is the most exciting thing that I had ever seen. Just to seeing how you could kill somebody on camera, but they're not dead. Uh, and it was just very exciting to me. And I actually stayed all night on set and then come home and then had to go to work the next day. Well, I didn't even sleep. I just come home, took a shower, and went to work. And so I started telling my friends that, wow, I was on this movie. And they're like, I wanna go be on the movie. And so I told Kenny, I was like, hey, so and so wants to be in the movie. Can they come do something? He's like, yeah, come this day. And I was like, what about this person and this person? And then finally, one of them called and they said, hey, if you can get 50 extras here for our club scene, maybe it wasn't 50, it may be something more simple like 20, but It's like, "I'll put your name in the credits for extras casting." And I was like, "What?
You're
Okay."
gonna put my name in the
I
credits?
know.
Wow.
So I was like, "Wow." So I called my friends and their friends. I was at the time single, so I was on a dating site, and so I told all the people, I was like, "Hey, do y'all wanna come be an extra in a movie?" And, that's a nice pickup line. And so, whenever the day actually came, I mean, we had a huge crowd of people there, and everybody that was like, "Where did all these people come from?" And they're like, "Katrina got them." And I'm like, "Well, I know that person and that person I met online, that person I met on a dating site, and that person is a friend of that person." And so it was really cool to see how many people actually wanted to be in a movie. And so I met a guy on that set, and he was like, "When I did my movie, I couldn't find anybody that wanted to come be an extra." And I said, "Well, call me because everybody I talk to, they wanna be in a movie." So in a couple of months, he did call me, and I actually had my first job. I didn't even know what I was doing. Um, and I got extras for their show, and so that just kind of started, and then I worked on a Chuck Norris, show with my, 3rd film that I actually worked on.
Well, it's interesting. Let me say hello to a few people, and then we'll pick up on the Chuck Norris here in a moment. Nancy Brown says blessings from Michigan. Marcus Ellis is up in Indiana, and he says hello, everyone. Lorraine Stevenson, our sweet Lorraine, says hello. Linda Luvire says cool beans, talking about you. And Marcus Ellis says wow. And folks, Katrina Bolen is joining us, and she's having some technical difficulties. Can't get her camera to work, but we got a picture of her, and we can hear her voice. And Mona Balgi just joined us from Michigan. Mona. She was on the cruise with us, Katrina.
Oh, wow. Hello, Mona. I do remember you.
Yeah, but John Cann was here yesterday, and he worked with Chuck Norris for years on Walker, Texas Ranger, and and he just recently died, and he was literally a legend not only in the music business but in karate. Tell us about your experience on working with him.
Well, it was a really very cool experience. I was able to help get extras for the movie that we were working on. I started working in craft service because that's the only area that they had open for, to be on the crew. And so I did that. And then I met the casting director and I asked her if I could help, get extras together. And so, one little thing that I didn't know is that Chuck Norris is fairly short in person, and he actually wore heeled boots. And so, whenever we were casting the extras, there was a very strict rule that no one could be over 6 foot tall to be an extra. So I thought that was kind
Because
of
they
a
don't want to
unique
make him
one.
look short, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But he was such a kind and sweet person, and I'm actually still friends with his son today. And so it was very sad whenever, I did hear about him passing because um, his Chuck's first wife, Mike's mom, had passed just a few months or Christmas, right before Christmas. And so then his dad, passed shortly after that. So it's kind of sad. I was sad for their family. Yeah.
Yeah, and Katrina, you're joining us from the Metroplex, the Dallas Fort Worth area. And hello, John Collins. Good to see you join us. And so you got into the movie business because your brother said, "Hey, bring some extras, and we'll put you in the credits." And then you met a couple producers, and then you're working on a movie with Chuck Norris. So, is it easy to find work in Dallas? I mean, used to movies were all in Hollywood.
Well, I love to travel, so I really don't work a lot in Dallas too much anymore. I do commercials every now and then with a few companies, and they'll be in Dallas because they're very fast castings. But most of the movie work that I have done has actually been out of Texas, because Texas, they did pass a new incentive, and so we're hopeful that things pick up around here. But I do kind of live about an hour and a half from Dallas. So even, I do have to travel in even if I'm working in Dallas. So it's kind of the same to me as if I'm going to travel, I can go anywhere. So,
Yeah,
but
and
yeah, but I did films in Texas, uh, many, over the years.
well, of course, your brothers Kenny and Kyle are based right here, 15 or 20 minutes from me, and you know, so they travel as much as anybody I know too. They're all over the world doing things, filming and whatnot, and so you get to work with them often.
I do. I cast all of their movies, so we have some things in the works that I'm kind of hopeful for to come through pretty soon or this year. And uh, but yes, so I do enjoy working with them. We get along really well now that we're adults, and so it's fun. It's fun to work together. We did a movie in Pennsylvania where two of
Matter
my
of fact,
kids.
that we're going to have that premiere in just a couple weeks, and I've been asked to go there and interview the stars of that movie. And I told Kenny we would live stream it. So, are you coming in for that
Oh,
premiere?
I am. So yes, I could. You could see me live and in person rather than my picture and a camera that won't work.
Well, tell us a little bit about that movie, Katrina, and tell us where the premiere is going to be, and if there is a way, if there are any invites left to get there or to go see it.
Well, I think this is a private screening for cast and then investors. So I'm not sure how open it is for the public to come see, but and I am not sure exactly. I believe they have distribution lined up. Of course, I can't knowledgeably talk about that. Um, but this will be just basically the cast and the crew, and then some, different investors for other projects and things like that. We typically do a screening like that that's private before it actually comes out. And then sometimes they will do one later that the public is invited to. So I don't know how public this particular event is going to be. Um, so I really don't know about that.
But
But the
yeah, and
movie
that's
was a lot of fun to work on, though.
yeah. Tell us a little bit about the movie. I was on the cruise, and my wife Latrell and Mona and Paula all went over to see that movie, and I didn't see it. And my wife was telling me, "Well, you and I saw that film together." And I said, "No, I didn't see it." "Yes, you did. You had to see it. You were with me." And then all of a sudden, she realized she saw it on the cruise, and I was sitting at the pool deck on the pool deck or something.
Oh, yes, that's right. We did watch it on the cruise, and I forgot about that. But yes, that movie is it was a really neat experience. The guy that's our lead actor in there, we actually met him on the cruise that we did the year before. So that was kind of neat. He's an influencer um, on TikTok and I believe YouTube as well.
And what's the name
And
of it?
The Real Christian McCartney. Oh,
Yeah,
the movie is Just One More.
just one more. Yeah,
Yes.
and Mona is telling me I missed a great movie. Well, Mona, that's okay. I'm going to see it on the 28th. So I just waited. And we're talking about a cruise. Katrina's brother Kyle was on last week, and he talked about when he invented, set up, started Dinner with Dreamers. He had a bunch of friends over, and they had dinner together. And this thing has morphed into, I guess, thousands of people, Katrina. And over the last 3 years, we've all gone on a cruise. I shouldn't say all. It's usually between 80 and 100 of us. So when we talk about we did this, we did that on the cruise, that's what we're talking about.
Yes, it was fun, and I'm looking forward to the next one as
Well,
well.
Well, the next one's the bomb for sure. Going to three places that the Apostle Paul preached 2,000 years ago over in the Mediterranean. I haven't signed up yet. I'm kind of waiting for this war to wind down before I set it down. But John Graham's going to be on next Monday, our travel agent, so we can talk to him about that on Monday.
Well, very cool. That'll be exciting.
Well, tell us a little bit about this movie that we're going to see the premiere of, and we'll get, like we said, get to see you uh, real soon when you come into Nashville.
Yes, me and two of my kids were able to go and work on that, so they're actually coming to the premiere with me as well. And but the movie, it's based on a true story of two different people's lives, and so they just took these two stories and kind of combined them into one for this movie. But I did the casting on it, so we did the auditions and found the actors for the movie. And whenever I saw it on the cruise, a positive reaction from those who watched it. And it seemed to be very impactful. There was a lot of tears. And so that's always good. But I was pleased with how the casting turned out, with the actors that we had found, with their performances that they put forward, and they really connected with the audience. And so it made them, the audience members, be able to really connect with the story.
Well, it is a faith-based film, is it not?
Yes, it is. It's a girl, she's battling addiction, and so it's about drugs. So it's a little dark in some areas, but it's also about the struggle that she's trying to get off of drugs, but just it kind of shows how the hold that drugs really has on you, and that it takes a little bit more than just like, oh, I'm gonna quit doing drugs. And it just kind of shows the struggle that she goes through to, overcome this, and the people that she meets in her life that help her and encourage her and are walking beside her during this journey.
And it's so tough. We did this film called Hope Lives in Hohenwald about 5 years ago, and Kyle actually edited it for us, and it's a story about a town an hour and a half south of here where they were losing one teenager a month to fentanyl overdose, and a bunch of churches got together, formed a coalition, built a Hope Center for men, built a Hope Center for women, started leading those kids to Christ, and all of a sudden they cleaned a lot of that up. I think the last time I was down there, they told me they might be losing one per year now as opposed to one a month.
Wow, that's really good. What the impact that they're having.
Yeah, addiction is such a horrible thing. We've seen it. I mean, absolutely destroy lives. Well, Kat, I think a lot of people have probably tuned in tonight because they would like to maybe be an extra or like to maybe get a part in a movie. How would someone go about doing that?
Okay, so in order to be in a movie, you would need to sign up to be an extra. I do have a database that's basically my mailing list. So once you get into the database, when I do have castings, I send emails out to everyone. But now my database is nationwide. So if I'm doing a movie in Pennsylvania, you would get the email about it, but you might be in Michigan or wherever. But you would be able to see what all is going on, what's happening, and where it's located. And then you can read it and you say, hey, I could do that. And then you sign up. Through my database, you can sign up for different projects. I know a lot of people like to just email me all their stuff, which is fine. But yet, when I'm in the middle of casting, it's a lot going on at one time. So it's like I don't have time to think, oh, who is that person that emailed me, 72,000 emails ago? Um, So it's like the best way to do it is to be in my database, because then when I send out, this is what I'm casting, you can see it and you can sign up for it if you're interested. Because it is so quick, I use my website and then I go through agents which are located in whatever region that we are actually filming.
Yeah, and Danette Bear just joined us from Indiana. She says, "Hi, Katrina."
Well,
Hi.
hi, Danette. How are you?
So, Mona is joining us from Michigan, and I know that Mona and Paula Slow went and were extras in I Can Only Imagine 2 here in Nashville. Well, it was actually in Franklin, Tennessee last year. And then Latrell and I went to see that film at the Franklin Theater, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks ago with the girls. And they were so excited to have been an extra in that film. And what great films those two were. I Can Only Imagine. I Can Only Imagine 2. And but if somebody asked me earlier before you and I came on tonight, they said, "Well, do you get paid to be an extra?" Generally, no, right? Tell us about how all of that works.
Well, so the getting paid as an extra, yes, that is, of course, everyone's dream. But whether or not the extras get paid is based 100% on the budget of the movie. And so if the larger movies, they have the budget allotted for extras to be paid, then extras will get paid. Now, if it's a SAG movie and you're already in the union, things like that, then you do in California, if you're working in California, then you get paid a rate that a lot of these things that says, oh, you can get paid $300 a day to be an extra. Well, that does not happen. Unless maybe a commercial or something like that. But in general, on a movie, the reason you would go to be an extra is for the experience, to be there, and just to be a part of it. And if you want to be an actor, then you can use that as on-set experience. You can start building a resume, because that's what we look at whenever we're casting for speaking roles. Um, but yeah, so you might get paid $50, $100. That's kind of in the it's either
Or you
free.
might get a T-shirt. I think the girls got a T-shirt, right?
You could get T-shirts or things like that. Um, but you should never, if your whole goal is to get paid, then being in a movie is not probably what for you, because you don't get paid a significant amount, and it's just you're doing it for other reasons besides the paycheck. Um, but of course, it also depends on how big of budget the movie is, like I said, and that is all determined by the producer. The casting director has zero say in how much an extra gets paid. So some people, they kind of like, why don't you get us some money? I'm like, number one, that is not my area, and I don't deal with that type of funding. So
You just make the introduction and invite people to, be an extra. Well, what about, when you cast somebody that's in a starring role? Now, of course, you don't negotiate pricing with them either. You just basically probably introduce them to the producer, I would think.
Actually, for name talent, I do. I am involved in the negotiation with the agent and with the actor's attorney, and the production gives me, this is our starting point, this is our max, and so I go and I make these offers to the agents, who then in turn put it towards, in front of the actor, and then if the actor has an interest in the project, then we negotiate, back and forth. Of course, I involve the producers in that aspect as well. So, if they come back and they usually want a lot more than whatever we offered them. And so then we just kind of try to make it work. But yes, I am involved in that process, but I don't handle money per se. I do kind of facilitate escrows, things like that, for name talent. But now speaking roles in movies, they do typically get paid. And those we would cast by auditions. It's easier to be an extra than it is to get a speaking role, because your competition is a lot less, and it's a good way to start and getting on set, things like that. But for the auditions, you probably would need to get with an acting teacher, acting coach, and start working on your experience and things like that.
Yeah, and somebody that wants to be an actor, like you say, it's a tough business. I know I've got a son-in-law that is a professional, was a professional actor, still acts occasionally, but he's the executive director of Studio 10, and he and Patrick Cassidy, who's the brother of David Cassidy, both sons of Shirley Jones, run Studio 10 in Franklin, Tennessee, and they produce Broadway shows. And so they bring in talent that would be on Broadway, and those are high production or high quality productions, and those actors get paid a lot of money. So there's a lot of different places that people can act. I mean, you got local theater, and then of course you got Broadway, and then you've got TV, and then you've got film. Kind of explain a little bit about all of that, how that works.
Right. There are so many different ways to be an actor, uh, in various things. When it comes down to even like hosting, I've cast some hosts for live events. I've even cast security guards for YouTube personalities, not real security guards, but they were
Yeah.
like pretend security guards. And, so anytime that you get to do your craft would be considered an acting opportunity. And it's not just TV, film, commercials. There's all kinds of the YouTube videos, the church videos, like um, different. I work with Christ and Youth Productions out of Joplin, Missouri, and I've cast for them for about 10 years now, doing their little kid promos that they show at their kids' events that they do all year. And so it's just so many different things that you can do to still be acting, theater, your community theater, like you said, and things like that.
Well, Jonna Sussman says, she says, were you ever starstruck in meeting someone in the movie business? Who did you enjoy meeting the most?
Well, the one time I remember being starstruck, but it wasn't really. I was in California and I was at a Starbucks, and we had heard that there's the a movie premiere or a movie, yeah, a movie premiere going on of adaptation. And so we were standing there and we were watching Nicolas Cage and all those people, walking the red carpet. I turned around, I hear somebody say, Brad Pitt. I turn around and I'm face to face with Brad Pitt. And I was like, I my mind was totally blank, and the only thing I said was, "You have beautiful eyes." And then that was I couldn't think of anything else, and I was like, "What an idiot." I was like my brain was totally. But that was the one time that I was so starstruck because I was so caught off guard with him being there, and so that was my moment. But as far as, like, with actors that I've worked with, um, I know John Schneider was one that I had tried to get him on a movie a long time ago, and it didn't work out. So I kind of was on this mission to get John Schneider on a movie because, I mean, he was Bo Duke. And so, but over the years, I've actually cast him in 3 or 4 different movies. And so it's always cool to be able to work with people that you watched growing up. And so it's kind of a neat experience. And he's a really good actor. Whenever he has some good scripts in front of him, I mean, he's a really solid actor, and I enjoy watching him.
Yeah, and Martha Lee Bentley joined us and said, love from Roll Tide, Alabama. Sweet Home Alabama. And Lorraine Stevenson said she was starstruck when she met Mark D'Alessandro. How about that?
Oh, Mark, he's a hoot.
He really is, and he lives out there close to you. Well, Katrina, how would somebody? I see Marcus Ellis is saying it would be a lot of fun. Forget the pay. How would somebody like Marcus or Martha? I mean, because you need people from all ages, all sizes, all personalities, every ethnic background. There's always someone unique that that makes a great character in a movie. How would they connect with you and sign up to be part of your database? No, I
Okay,
didn't
so
say dating base. I said database.
yes, so my website is KatzKasting.com, and that's with a lot of K's and Z's. Um, and it's KatzKasting.com. And at the top of the page, it'll say join database. And you can get in my database, and there's a free part that says not active, but that gets you on the on the mailing list. And that's really all you need to do to get to where you can get the information about what is available. On the movie that I did in Pennsylvania, I had quite a few people come from my database that did not live in Pennsylvania. So I'm okay if you want to drive. One time I had a girl that drove from Ohio down to Texas and to be an extra in a movie for no pay. And I
Well,
couldn't believe it.
I think
But
Mona Balgi does that all the time, and she's on. Debbie Bennett is in charge of a record label, and I think she's been working on a movie script, and she wants to know what she would do with a movie script, Kat.
um, well, let's see. For a movie script, in order for like me as a casting director, when I come on is after you've already got the funding and you're ready to start production and you're ready to get your cast together. I'm typically the first crew member that's hired onto a production because we need to start casting in advance. But if you just start with a script before you get to the casting aspect, you have to find a producer and investors. So find someone that really believes in you and your project and that is willing to put forth a pretty significant amount of money that could get the ball rolling to where you could get producers to be interested and to sign on to your project. And then that's whenever casting would kind of come into effect after that. But
Well, yeah, go
a
ahead.
lot of people have scripts, so you need to find people that believes in that script and that would have the financial means to be able to support you in that.
Well, I know two women that are both um, in the music business, like Debbie is, and they've got amazing stories, and they have scripts, and both of them have talked to producers like a Kenny and Kyle. But it's like Kenny and Kyle are movie producers, but they're not going to take a script and produce it without the money. And both of these women, I think, have been told, and these are low budget films, that they need, to come up with an investor that can, bring to the table $350,000. So it's not easy getting a script. Unless, like they say, if you want to make $1 million, start with two. If you got $2 million, then you can get your script produced. But it's a difficult thing, isn't it, Katrina?
It is. It's a really weird process on how it all comes together. It could take years. There's a couple of projects that I've been working on that it is literally seeming to take forever to get things lined up to where it moves to the next phase. Um, so it's a process. You have to really uh, love it, love what you're doing, and also be open to criticism and rewrites. I know that whenever I start working on a show, I'll get a script, which is usually the first version of the script, and that's what we will cast off of. But by the time we actually start shooting, we're usually on version 5, 6, or 7 before it ever even starts. So you have to be, as a writer, you have to not be married to your script, and you have to let changes happen that need to happen. And because it does happen, it happens all the time. I don't even know if I've ever worked on a movie that filmed the script that it was in the beginning. And a lot of times characters are removed, we've already cast them, and then suddenly, oh, they're not there anymore. So that's kind of an odd thing, but it does happen.
Well, I know your brother Kenny's a script writer, very good script writer, and he's producing a movie with someone, and I won't say who, but he and I were talking recently, and he was talking about, the thing is this long, but he is rewriting the script to, fit this level of time. A lot of times people want to go from 1974 up until now, and somebody like Kenny that knows how to take that script will say, let's narrow it down and focus on this area as opposed to all of these different things.
Right. Yes. And it just, it has to start strong within, your first few pages has to really capture the audience. And in the past, I've read scripts that just seem like I'm reading a book. And if it seems like I'm reading a book, then you need to go back and rewrite, your intro and things like that, because a script is not the same as, reading a book. And so anyway, I don't know. I'm not a script writer myself, but I do know that a lot of producers do produce their own stuff. So it is a little bit more of a challenge as a writer if you just simply have a script as to know what to do with it, because you'd probably need to get it in front of producers that do not currently write their own work, because um, if they can produce their own work, that would probably be the highest on their priority list, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Katrina, you were here for the Gideon Film Festival uh, a couple of years ago, and I remember the boys from Angel Studios were over here, and they were basically saying if you have an incredible story, you've got a script, the first thing that you need to do is produce a torch or or a snippet of a trailer, and sometimes a short trailer can cost 15, 20, $50,000 to put together, 3 to 5 minutes, but you have to put something together and get it into the hands of somebody that can see it. And I know that at that time, and I think we're going back 2 years, they were willing to accept your torch or your trailer, and were willing to look at it. And I think at that time they were actually funding some filming, but I think Kenny told me recently that they're no longer funding filming.
Yeah, I do think that if you can put together a trailer, but of course, like you said, it costs money. Everything, it costs money in order for you to do things that's going to make you money in the long run. And unfortunately, that's the business. And but I have cast, little trailers and things like that, to where, like the one we did in Nashville, Bon Aqua area, was about $100,000 they spent on the trailer. But that trailer has opened many doors for that film, and because we really put a lot of effort into it, we got great actors, we paid the actors, and so it's like you really have to get good actors even in your trailer, because if you just put your family members in there, then, you know, you're gonna spend all this money to make a trailer, and it's not gonna be interesting. You won't have the right people that's making your project that would, in the long term, bring the people that you want to you. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and I know exactly what you're saying, and from my personal experience, I haven't done anything big, but I've produced, 4 documentaries, and I'm still working with Kenny and Kyle on one called Exorcism in America. But when I started doing this stuff, um, you end up, even on small documentaries, you end up spending a lot of money. I had to pay $5,000 on one of the films just to get someone to edit 1 hour, um, 1 hour film, and then and these good editors, most of them want a minimum of $500 per day to edit, and I'm talking about guys in Nashville. So I'm not a great editor, but I purposely learned Premiere Pro and spent 4 or 5 years working on it so I could edit a lot of this stuff myself. Well, I can't produce the stuff like Kenny and Kyle do, but I can edit most of the stuff. But I'm just trying to give people some kind of an idea of the expense involved in producing film, and mine has been at the very lowest rung of the ladder.
Yes, unfortunately, it's a pretty costly thing to do. So that's why a lot of times it seems that casts don't get paid that well. Uh, but there's so many pieces that goes into the project that you have to think about, and you can't just go out and throw together something and actually look good and turn around and bring you positive results. And so it takes a lot of planning and a lot of work and money and prayer that it turns out right.
Yeah, and of course, a good friend has joined us tonight, Martha Lee Bentley. She said she was starstruck by Waylon Jennings when he played the Palomino Club in North Hollywood back in the 60s. And uh, I remember those days. I used to walk up and down Hollywood and Vine as a young man there. And there was a place called the Whiskey A Go Go where Johnny Rivers always played before he hit the real big time. But we've all been starstruck by different people. With me, it was people like Muhammad Ali and guys like that since I was in the boxing business. But Katrina, is there anything I haven't asked you that our audience needs to know about the film business? Getting involved. Uh, Obviously it's easy to make it as an extra, but it's if you want to be a star, I think most of the time these actors start at a very young age and go throughout school, and a lot of them go to college to learn theater, and then translate or transition over to film.
Yes, I think that if you have a passion to want to be an actor, and it doesn't matter what age you are, because I cast films of all ages. And of course, the older you are, the less competition there is because we don't have a lot of older actors. Um, but basically, I don't think that you have to go to college to be an actor. Acting is basically not acting. If we can tell you're acting for film, it's more subtle things like that. We want an actor who's not an actor or who's not acting, if that makes sense. Because like stage, you have a different persona versus film and TV. And but if you have the desire to do it, I mean, go for it. And get in my database so that you'll know what's going on. And I do have some projects coming up later this year that I would be posting out on there. And then if you have the time off or whatever, and you can come and be an extra, then you can sign up that way. Um,
You know what locations you're going to be at later this year?
um, Well, tentatively in Louisiana. Louisiana has some really good film incentives right now that we've gotten to be able to get some good deals. And so that's potentially where one of the projects is going to be shot at. Of
Well,
course,
go
there's
ahead.
so many things, that happen and change. I thought we were gonna shoot in Georgia, but then not in Georgia. So,
Are you
uh
talking about the Lincoln Lead? Is that
right,
still?
Lincoln League, yes.
And so that's going to be shot in Louisiana now.
Um, Possibly, that's the latest I've heard, so which would be good for me because that's not too far away from where I live here in Texas,
We were
and
just we were just down there last week, and I don't know if you saw my fabulous video with those gators that I shot down there by
oh,
36.
no.
Yeah, Liz Barnett. Well, was starstruck meeting Elvis Wade in 1975, and his wife Sandy Posey was a big. John Sussman was starstruck with her. Was a big pop singer when Martha Lee Bentley, Liz Barnett, and John and I were all young, and and sadly they're both gone now, and we loved them both. Katrina, is there anything else you need to tell us before we let you go tonight?
Well, I guess just don't give up if whatever it is that you're doing, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So I've been doing this for 25 years now, and I'm still just making it by. So you just have to be persistent and not give up on whatever it is that you want to be your dreams are. And you have to put some effort into it. It's not going to fall in your lap. You do have to make an effort. And, but I think that the journey is worth it. It's a very exciting journey through all the different phases that you will go through. So just don't give up.
Yeah, and life happens. Mark DeLisandro is such a good friend of all of us. Mark said he was in an elevator in Mexico City, and Sylvester Stallone walked on that elevator with him, and Mark ended up being his stuntman for 20 years just by a chance meeting like that. Isn't that amazing?
Wow, I did not know that. That's crazy.
And then John Cann, who is a close friend of Mark, was on last night, and he was uh, Chuck Norris's stuntman for 20 years as well, and he just went out to Hollywood when he was a young guy, and you know somehow broke into the business. So whatever your dreams are, follow them, and good things can happen. I would say mostly follow Jesus Christ. That's what we do, and He'll lead you and direct you. Katrina, thank you so much for being on tonight. I did want to tell our friends that tomorrow night we'll be back with our concert series, and we've got a great group coming. Katrina, I'll give you the last word. Is there anything else you want to say before we say adios, as they say in Texas, right?
Yes. Well, thank you guys for coming out to listen. And sorry I could not figure out my camera. I will have to work on that. And it was good to see
I know a couple of
Jeanette.
guys that might be able to help you with that.
Oh yeah, I know.
Kenny and
Um,
Kyle.
I'm like, I don't know what happened. But it was fun. So thank you, Carrie, for asking me, and I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
We really look forward to it, and come on by and we'll feed you dinner.
Oh, sounds good.
Good night, Katrina. Lord bless you, folks. We'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow night.